All right, everybody. Hey, it is Thursday, May 14th, and today is 20 Minutes with Bridgette. And yep, so today's topic is spider medicine. So I wanted to kind of go to the blog because let's see, let's see. Hold on one second. Okay, let me go and check out what is happening. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I just had to move it. All right. So, yep. So this video will be up on Patreon and it'll have a adjoining blog, like I always do, 20 Minutes with Bridgette. And you can find this blog on my website, coe-llc.com, and Spider Medicine. All right. So anyway, there was this like really cool photo here of this heart web. And so today we're just going to talk, I'm going to give you a simple practice to think about. And we're also going to kind of hear some stories about spider medicine and grandmother spider, who was the teacher who taught us language and taught us how to write symbology, within the web and language. And yeah, so there's some really great stuff here that I put here with links, with grandmother spider and spider medicine, and about the strongest web, beautiful spider built web time lapse, so that you can go in there and you can kind of get a good idea. So you can go ahead and study all that stuff to go along with what I'm presenting today. But I'm going to tell you a couple stories, and then I'm going to give you a practice, an inner seeing, an inner hearing, an inner feeling practice that is best done before you go to sleep at night. Okay, so I've had a long road with spider, and specifically, I'm trying to think. I think it would have been like 2002. I was living in this crazy house. It was a friend of mine who was an attorney, rental house, and the house had really, really crazy energy. I had a friend of mine who did all the feng shui, but with the compass, and then she did all the numbers and all the math work to figure out what was going on. And she was kind of shocked, she said, because the house kind of had a bipolar energy, because of the way that it was built, the time frame that it was built, the numbers and everything that were coming up. So it wasn't really stable. So it was swinging from one side of a spectrum to the other side of the spectrum, which I believed made the house have more supernatural energy. Now, we're not talking demonic or ghost, nothing like that, but let's just say a little bit more, branching out into other worlds, kind of worldly stuff, which ultimately was really positive in the long run, but really tough to go through, because when the house was kind of in its downside, not a whole lot of sleeping, the energy was super intense. On the upside, there was, it was very ecstatic, but it was a very, very tough energy living there. So one of the things that happened was I went through this period for about 6 months where all kinds of spiders kept moving into the house. Like I'd literally wake up in the morning or come back, after I'd been gone for a while, and there would be spider webs in the inside of the window seals, in the bathroom. Yeah, mostly filling all the window sills, all different, types and kinds of spiders. So I went through this period of just, asking him to leave and not come back. And, it seemed like it got worse. So I just got to the point where I just couldn't battle them. So I just, pretended to ignore them. And then, once a week when I'd clean the house, I'd vacuum them up, clean the windows, whatever, was going to happen. And then they'd come back, they'd reappear. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to sit down and try to figure out what the message is. What's the message here? What's the lesson? What's going on? And what I started to learn was that this spider energy was trying to show me how to view my life, how to maybe even fix things that were going on in my life, with the main theme of what kind of web am I weaving. Later on, I started to realize like webs are cymatic patterns, right? So when the wind or air, even water, drops onto it and how it drops off and moves back and forth, it can create a frequency that we can't hear. So it's actually changing the geometric structure of everything that it's around. Webbing is one of the strongest things on earth. One of the things that they were teaching me were like how effed up the webs I was creating in my life, because they were actually recreating them in the windows. And so they weren't circular, they weren't strong with their attachments. And so they were showing me like kind of, how can you attract something? How can you have abundance if you don't have the right web? You haven't designed the right web, and your web is not in a good location. It's not catching anything, because you could see how a spider's building, um, you know, funky webs and inside windows are not going to be catching much food, not having much abundance. They're not going to be utilizing, some of the other energies like wind and open areas, and to, attract bugs, get bugs into them, so they can eat. Not having a very good web makes it really difficult for you to have offspring. So there were just a lot of things that were going on. And so I really started to actually watch and pay attention to what they were teaching me and the webs that they were showing me that I was weaving, kind of like mirroring back to me, right? What was going on internally on a subconscious level that I was reflecting out. And that was my, I guess you want to call it, law of attraction. So I've kind of always, since that point in time, had this kind of special relationship with spider. And I don't really get a whole lot of lessons from spider anymore. Sometimes I'll be out in nature looking for plant medicines and come across like just spectacular webs, and I'll have to sit and spend some time looking at it and watching the spider within it, and see if there's anything that she's strumming, right? She's pulling and strumming, and she's a musician of the energetic word and language and symbology, right? A lot of this really right hemisphere teachings and understandings. So a couple of years ago, I was out at a friend of mine's house, and I was helping him with some garden stuff. I also have a YouTube channel, so people can find that, Consciousness of Economics and Urban Farm Project YouTube channel. And so I put a lot of this stuff up there in the past. And she was a white spider. So in Native American systems of belief, white is kind of prophetic. It's usually a being that has is very symbolic to what is going on in the current environment, and it's very much a signal to be paid attention to. And she had these two huge horns on her butt, big butt. She had a big old butt with these two horns on it, and she had these glowing red eyes. And she was big, and she was magnificent. And she decided to move into the easement of this building that I was using for my office and, for a lot of other stuff that I was doing. And I noticed that she was really helping me with some energy, and she was just really having a hard time, like trying to get her web straightened out, and it just wasn't a very good space. And because it was right against kind of the wall there, she wasn't really getting any direct bug activity. So at night I would turn the light on because she was really active at night. And I would turn the light on so that the bugs would come into the web, so that she was taken care of, right, while she was there. And I really believe that she was there signaling to me about changes, right? Changes in my web, the construction of my web. She was very at a point where um, things really started to change with me and the direction of some of my work, and at least my thinking at that time. And really working on this whole language thing. What is language, and how do we use this language, and how is it used against us, right? And watching people and in the webs that they're weaving, and some other ideas of that I talk a lot about, which is creating your own hell on earth, which is your subconscious mind attracting to it things that are creating your life, and you're not actually really co-creating it all. And a positive affirmation isn't going to help you with that. Internal work is going to be significant with that. Okay, so I want to just kind of give you guys like a practice that I was thinking about. This is a practice that any practice, like, when I'm dealing with clients, doing one-on-one work, and especially with shamanism type healing, energy medicine type work, I always ask people to do practices for a minimum of 30 days to be like super committed, because you have to wait for that 30 days for the unfoldment to take place. 6 weeks is actually a very physical time frame. It takes 21 days to make a habit, a minimum. Takes longer to get rid of that habit. It takes 6 weeks for any kind of dietary changes or supplements to really take hold in your system, for your system to try to, really figure how to work with those things and then actually utilize them, repair, do a lot of that kind of work. 6 weeks is a pretty good time frame for working out and exercise. So we always want to bring this shamanism stuff into the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Left hemisphere is the technical language world, physical world that we're dealing in. And sometimes the watery world, which we'll call it the second dimension or the second attention. Right hemisphere, we're kind of moving into the third attention and the fourth attention. So we want to be able to bring both sides together, so the internal with the external. So this is a practice that I did for quite a while, a long period of time, off and on. In the beginning, I'd go in and check with my inner eye, visualizing, what's going on in there. And what I would do is I do a lot of this stuff because of the shamanism type work that I've been involved in for a long time. So if I want to fix things, or I get the signal that I need to go in and look, then I do. I go in and look at those places. Sometimes I have to build them. I have to construct new realities within the energetic domains, right, in the inner planes of my existence, right, so that it can affect the outer world and the external world. Sometimes I have to build it. Sometimes I just have to go in there and clean it up, reorganize it. And then sometimes I have to keep working with it for a period of time in order to get it stabilized. So it's been about, quite a while since I had actually gone in and looked at my energetic web. And I was pleasantly surprised that it was holding, it's holding well. I mean, I think I'm going to go in there for the next few nights and I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to add some more supports. I need to do more connective supports, because I want to add just a little bit more of a frequency. I think on the outside edge, like let's go back to this, this, let's go back to this because I just want to show you real quick. So if you look at any kind of web, one of the things that I noticed that was most important about webs when I was doing a lot of this work was, you see all this connective stuff here, right? All this connective stuff is super, super important. And see how the strand goes out and connects somewhere, the strand goes out, connects somewhere. So these are where I'm a little weak on my webbing inside in my inner vision, my energetic domain. And I've decided that I'm going to do 16 connectors, right? And in the energetic world, I can actually connect it up to different things. I can actually place different things in my structure, in my energetic mind, in my make-believe mind, my dreaming mind, my conscious visualizing mind in my mind, closing my eyes and looking in there. I've decided I want to do 16 connectors. And so I was also being shown last night when I was looking at my web that I may actually want to start changing some of the colors. So I've decided that I'm going to imbue my web threads, with some probably precious metal, precious stone combination. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to, go in there in my guided imagery, look at my web, and then I'm going to, get my mixing bowl out. I'm kind of talking more about an advanced model, and we'll get back to something simple because you want to just work with the spider and the webbing that's there and create your web. Now, it's really important the structure be as round as possible. Everything in this world is about the circle, the hoop, the drum. It's a really important place. It's really difficult also to get that structure perfectly round and connected to the things that you want to get it connected so it's holding. In the Cherokee studies that I've done, they believe that the medicine wheel, our personal medicine wheel, the big medicine wheel, is connected with spider thread at the four corners. And this is what suspends it in the universe, right? This is what suspends us, that energetic platform in the universe. So you want to make sure and get your circle right. You want to make sure that you have lots of different kinds of threading. Like here's the internal threading, here's the external. Make a circle, make sure it's connected. And so how do I do this? Well, I just go in, I lay in bed and I get quiet, take in some deep breaths. And it's so nice to do it at the end of the day when there's a lot of stress. It's like you can just turn off that stress. I can focus in on whatever I'm working on in my internal energetic platform, my construct that I build in there. And I'm just going to, for, looking at the web in particular, and I have to look at the area. I have to see what the area has in there, if it has anything going on. I might have to put some trees in there. I might have to do a lot of other stuff so that I have something to connect the web to, right? So it attaches to other things. This is a very important thing because you can't have a standalone web. Because it doesn't work in this reality and it's not going to work in the energetic reality because it's connected to all things, right? We're having to connect up to all things, right? This is part of law of attraction, is reconnecting up to the things that we want, not the things that we don't want. and isolation, is not going to be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go in there, and then, like, I'm probably going to have to build my web, design it. And that's why 30 days is important, because every night I'm just going to work on what I can before I'm burned out on that, or, I'm ready to go to bed, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 2 hours. And then, every night I'm going to go in there, and there's probably going to be stuff in it, or part of it didn't hold. And I'm just going to have to keep rebuilding it every night until I get it connected up and it's stable, right? So that's why 30 days is a pretty good time frame to work with something like this, right? And the more time that you do it, the more you start to change your subconscious mind, right? About thinking about other things, like, what am I attracting in this web so far? What have I gotten in this web? Why won't this section of the web, why do I come back in here every night and it's gone, it's missing? Why can't I get it to hold its construct, its construction, right? And as you ask yourself these questions, and then while you're in there doing the work, then you can get the answers to that, which are going to help you to change what's going on in the external. And it's a super great way to end your day, because, you can see what your web collected during the day. And if there's a lot of stuff in it that's unwanted, then then what you need to work on for the next 30 days of how to get out of that unwanted. How do I create a web that isn't attracting that unwanted? And then the second thing is that, if there's nothing in your web, then you have to start working on changing the structure of it, or what its relationship is to with everything, so that you can actually start creating things that are going to land in the web, so that you can take a look at, it's like a net, right? You're throwing it, it's sitting up in there in the energetic planes, and then you're seeing what it's collecting, so that way it can help you to fine tune it. I find that this kind of shamanism works way better than New Age type thinking, and I prefer it. I prefer it over a lot of other stuff. So anyway, I'm moving to now, since my web has been pretty solid for like 20 years, maybe 2002, yeah, 17 years or something like that. I only had to make a few corrections. So now I'm going to start working on it at night, and I'm going to imbue it, infuse it with dusting. And I'm probably going to use silver. I'm thinking about a little gold. I've got some crystals that I'm kind of interested in, maybe some amethyst, definitely some topaz, and then crunch all this stuff together in my energetic plane. And then I'm going to start blowing it onto my web. And then I'm going to, check out to see what happens with it then, right? So I'm going to give it a little extra oomph, and get it really, going, and get it really shimmering and shiny, and putting out another, type of frequency and energetic vibe. And sometimes this stuff is like, you got to fake it till you make it. And you've got to keep working with it until, like, you can see the changes that you want in your external world. And so, all right, well, anyway, hopefully that's given you some information to work with, a little bit of some internal shamanism type work with spider medicine, and then go ahead and look at all the videos and stuff. There's some great stories about spider. And anyway, one of those amazing beings that we can learn a huge amount from, because she works with so many different elements, and she thrives, working with those elements. And she is constantly creating works of art that produce energy and frequencies and change and alter, you know, states within elements. So, all right, everybody, that's it. 20 minutes with Bridgette. It's Thursday, May 2014, and just hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.